action sequence.
Joyous, fun, badass.
Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go.
I think that these are resonant Marvel anti-heroes because of their imperfections. There's a humanity to how messed up they both are. And while they may seem like they have divergent and very different personalities, Wade and Logan are both really flawed. And frankly, both of them are haunted by a lot of regret, by a lot of trauma. And they, I think, are fascinating to us and to me because they cover up their pain in such different ways. And that created really interesting opportunities from the writing of the film all the way through the final cut. I think that Ryan and I, we spent months with the other writers, Zeb and Wernick and Reese, trying to come up with a story that felt honest to the Deadpool franchise and also worthy of the MCU. And to be really blunt, it was hard. And it was, frankly, not as fruitful as we thought it would be. And we were going to put it aside. We were about to tell Kevin Feige, you know what? We're not quite coming up with a story that feels inarguably worth making. And at that juncture, where we were starting to think maybe we wait rather than make a sequel that is unworthy of this mantle, that's when Hugh Jackman called. Literally out of the blue, in August of 22, Hugh called and said, I've had an epiphany. I want Logan with Wade. I want to do Deadpool and Wolverine. And that very day, we had the why. We had the reason to make this movie, and we had the ultimate antidote to sequel derivations, because this is not Deadpool 3. This is Deadpool and Wolverine. And it became instantly worthy of making and different than all other Deadpool movies and different than all other MCU movies. For one thing, when you are in the MCU and you instantly get the greatest, most bottomless toy chest imaginable as a storyteller, right? Characters, legacy, gadgets, mythology, it's all possible. So you need to exert discipline in the writing and the making of the film. You can't just use everything because it's fun. You, at least we, really rigorously made ourselves selective. And we only used supporting characters, mythology, legacy themes when it fed into this Deadpool and Wolverine story. And you're right, the Deadpool and Wolverine story is essentially you have a pairing of two characters who each deserve and have had their own movies. So in the writing of this film, we knew that we needed to honor both equally, but differently. That being said, we wanted a storyline that was worthy of Wade and allowed Wade Wilson to show sides of himself and wrestle with demons and aspirations that he hasn't thus far. And then, maybe even more critically, when Hugh Jackman called us, we knew that there was an opportunity that was unspeakably rich. But we also knew that we needed to do right by this guy. We needed to do right by our friend Hugh. And we really equally needed to do right by this iconic, beloved character of Logan. And so we wrote our tails off, rewriting, brainstorming, talking, rewriting again, trying to craft a Logan for this movie that is not a redux of any Logan we've seen, faithful to his tone, faithful to the character, but deeper and different in terms of the dimensions Hugh was able to play. And my greatest satisfaction, and I know I speak for Ryan as well, is to hear Hugh talk about how gratified he is by this performance and by this representation of Logan. That was our deepest hope. That was our most intense pressure, and that may be our greatest pride.
You're not welcome anywhere. Now get the fuck out of my bar.
Just give me one more drink and then I'll leave.
Hi, Peanut. I'm gonna need you to come with me right now.
Look, lady, I'm not interested.
All right, well, I'm sort of on the tick-tick, so upsy daisy. Here we go. Oh, whiskey dick of the claws. It's quite common in Wolverines over 40.
You don't want this.
Unless you want to take a deep breath through your fucking forehead, I suggest you reconsider.
You said it. The paradigm here was not a superhero movie. The paradigm here was the Odd Couple buddy cop movie. So it was inspirations and invocations from Midnight Run, 48 Hours, Lethal Weapon, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It was a movie where you have two characters who would never choose to spend time with each other, who are forced to spend a lot of time with each other. And in their difference, you have an incredible recipe for comedy, for conflict, which is itself comedic sometimes. But most critically, as you say, what you're setting up over the long kind of superstructure of the film is a gradual thaw and a connection. And that's where this movie, I think, is maybe at its most subversive. Yes, it's funny. Yes, it's action-packed, but it really is ultimately very moving because it explores the unlikely connection and the mutual redemption that Deadpool and Wolverine find for having gone on this journey with this unlikeliest of traveling mates. You're identifying something that has two sides to the same coin. The metatextual awareness that is part of the Deadpool franchise and its DNA. That is arguably, for me, the most fun to write because you're getting to comment on the form while you are contributing to the form. That's a blast. But you're also right in identifying the flip side, which is we would often sit back in the edit room, Ryan and I, and there would be 5 self-referential jokes in 90 seconds. And we would say, nope, too much. If you break the fourth wall too often, you are undermining the audience's vesting in the characters. And so there has to be a cadence and a judicious employment of that device. And so we rarely said, oh, we need more self-awareness because there's always a lot in Deadpool, but we would often have to kill some darlings and say, it's too much. Let's take a break. Let's pull back. Even if they were A+ jokes, we would often take them out because the investment in Deadpool and Wolverine and their journey, that was the North Star and most important. I didn't want to presume maximum fluency from the audience. There is no doubt a tremendous amount of breadcrumbs, nods, and Easter eggs for the fans who do have fluency. But you'll notice that the very first scene in the TVA with Matthew McFadden's Mr. Paradox, he defines the TVA. He literally describes what the TVA is and does to Wade Wilson, who doesn't know. So in that case, it's often helpful, as we all know in crafting movies and scripts, to have an audience surrogate in the movie so that you can justify the exposition of ground rules for the audience and for a character in the film. So in the first couple scenes with Mr. Paradox and Wade, we have McFadden in his inimitably interesting performance style literally define what the TVA is, where Wade is, what the TVA does. And similarly, just in case you didn't see the masterpiece that was Logan, we literally describe in the film what happened and why it is sacred text, as it were. And what you can see there, for instance, is the reverence and the fanhood that we as filmmakers have for James Mangold's film. We imbue the TVA with that same reverence for the events of Logan. So I tried to explain and introduce certain concepts and certain predicates for the audience who isn't TVA and MCU fluent.